It's time now for culture then, and we're starting in fact with fashion. Women in the world's most populous Muslim country, Indonesia, are trying to show that fashion and Islam don't have to be incompatible. Well, how are they doing that? Well, our correspondents met up with some of the fashionistas at Jakarta's Fashion Week.
They're called the hijabistas, a mix of the words hijab and fashionista. These women meet up regularly to talk about fashion. They fully respect the Quran's teaching, but for them, this doesn't mean wearing burqas and black clothes, but more so motifs and jewellery on beautiful scarves.
Looking good and wearing pretty scarves isn't about attracting men. It's more about showing people that the hijab doesn't have to be boring.
I wear the hijab because I know that I have to wear it, and also because I want to be beautiful. I don't want to draw too much attention to myself, though. There's a fine line between the two.
Ina Mutiara is one Indonesian designer who's fast making her mark on Muslim attire. This fashion graduate started out alone 15 years ago. Today she has over 150 designers and seamstresses on her team.
The only rule in the Quran concerning fashion is that women must be totally covered, except for their face and hands. Nowhere does it say that we can't wear colourful clothes, as long as they don't reveal our body and they're not tight. For me, nothing says we have to be hidden.
Ina plays with fabrics and colours. Indonesia's diversity inspires her. In her latest collection, simply entitled Ethnic, Ina used batik, a traditional Indonesian cloth, as well as Western-style blouses, inspiration she took from foreign magazines.
We adapt what we see in Western magazines to ensure that it falls in line with Islamic rules.
Her haute couture collection, which she likes to call the Pearl, has travelled all over the world. At Jakarta Fashion Week, Ina's latest collection was highly anticipated. She, alongside her fellow designers, hopes this platform will strengthen the image of Indonesian fashion in Asia and the Middle East.
Yeah, latest fashion there from Indonesia. Now we're going to stay with culture now. Our art critic Sean Rose joining us. We're moving back in time with him to the 60s. Is that right, Sean?
Yes, we're moving back in time and down south as well. We're heading for Guggenheim Bilbao, the beautiful museum designed by Frank Gehry, to see an exhibition of Claes Oldenburg. Claes Oldenburg, the 60s. This show is on the seminal years of one of the greatest American pop artists of the 60s. And he's still alive. He was born actually in 1929. He was Swedish. He's Swedish. I mean, he was Swedish born. He was born in Stockholm, but he grew up in Chicago. And he grew up in Chicago, and before he started to be a journalist, he changed options and he became an artist in New York. And this is one of his first shows, an installation called The Street. And he uses this material, refuse, cardboard, bin bags. This is big man, very simple but quite expressive. It's a homeless, a hobo. And it reminds me of Basquiat before Basquiat, you know, how, you know, this very poor material, graffiti and so on. This is a fire just starting, you know, you're sticking out of the wall. It's quite humorous. He's actually, yes, he prefigures people like Jeff Koons or, you know, people, even Andy Warhol. I mean, using these ordinary objects, everyday life objects and of consumption, you know, hamburgers. These are made in plaster, and he actually upsets the order by just showing oversized replica of these things. So you have you know, huge pieces of cake, hamburgers, or plugs. And he loves to play with scale. That is something which he loves to do. But unlike other pop artists, he does not celebrate materialism or consumerism. He's a quite different type of he's very singular. He's not a typical pop art artist. Sure. And I asked Achim Hodorfer, the curator, what kind of pop artist he was, and he is still, because Oldenburg is compares with the other pop artists as a big person, a big figure, but he's quite different. So I asked Achim Hodorfer.
Claes Oldenburg is one of the artists who took the zeitgeist, the atmosphere of the 60s, the enthusiasm of the 60s, as well as the disappointments of the 60s and the end of the 60s. On the one hand, he was part of the famous group of pop artists. He was Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein, James Rosenquist, Jim Dine. All these artists were close friends of his, and he was perceived and was part of these big exhibitions in the 1960s of pop art. At the same time, his version of pop art is slightly different. We perceive pop art as something which is cold, which is cool, which is cynical. His version of pop art is much more emotional. It's about feeling.
Well, I mentioned scale, and but with Claes Oldenburg, you have also material. He loves to play with that. So you have these kind of, he loves to, with making these objects that are ordinary objects, like this sink or this loo in cardboard. So I wouldn't, advise you to use it. No. Or he makes, hard stuff into limp things, like this sink, with this soft. But this softness is a kind of an attitude, really, because you see, he comes, Claes Oldenburg comes after the post-war Americans, like American artists, like abstract expressionists like Jackson Pollock, who are very kind of macho men, and, think that the artist is like a lonesome cowboy. He's got this mythology. He wants to, by doing these soft material things, he wants to show that art is not about imposing your ego and something like that. Yeah. It's more about fun. And that's what's quite interesting about Claes Oldenburg.
His work's quite political then. The 60s also, of course, the time of the Vietnam War.
Absolutely. You had demonstrations everywhere, you have the protest songs, and he's part of that picture. And he did actually, talking about these kind of romantic idea of the artist, he's got this, he did a kind of monument, but a fun monument. It looks very like a missile, kind of phallic missile, but it's more of an item of feminine cosmetic. It is an inflatable lipstick. So it's this huge lipstick, and it was done for, he made it for, there was a speech against the war and before this campus, and at the exhibition you see the models of this monument, which is kind of ludicrous, but it's quite making fun of the monument and the monument to the war dead and so on.
Well, you say ludicrous. Obviously it has to be taken with a bit of pinch of salt looking at those images. Irony seems to be quite a component of the work there.
Yes. Well, it's very much, with pop art, postmodernism is like there already. This irony, and one of the big ironic thing about America is Mickey Mouse, and Mickey Mouse is a motif. He did a miniature museum in the shape of the head of Mickey. Look, this is actually, you can enter this head, and you can see the American way of life in it, with bibs and bobs that make up American consumer society. So it's quite ridiculous, but if you're an E.T., you see, oh wow, these people are just consuming all this stuff, and it's really weird. But this is in the head of Mickey Mouse. So this, you can see the absurd side of things. And another motif of his is the ray gun. The ray gun is something which like a motif, and is also showcased all manners of guns in plastic toys and anything that looks like a gun. So that's another museum he did.
Okay.
Quite fun.
Looks interesting. Looks fun anyway. One to take the kids to, maybe. Sure, thank you very much.
It's until the 17th of February.
Excellent. Sean Rose, our art critic here on France 24. Stay with us if you can.